Hey everybody, I'm Belinda Sandor. Welcome to Lessons from the Cockpit. Let's get started. Hey everybody, welcome. I'm thrilled you're here today. Come on in and settle down and let me know who's here in the comments. So for those of you who are joining Lessons from the Cockpit for the first time, I'm Belinda Sandor, and I am the founder of the VA Connection, where I coach and mentor established and aspiring virtual assistants to create, grow, and scale their business as a virtual assistant. And I work with my students in my free online classroom, my courses and my coaching programs. And today I'm going to be your host for Lessons from the Cockpit. This is my weekly live stream show that airs every Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. So I'm thrilled you're here. Come on in, and I can see you guys pouring through the doors. So during Lessons from the Cockpit, I'll share tactical and practical advice for your virtual assistant business in each episode. And if you've been a virtual assistant for a while, or you're just starting out, these tips are absolutely for you. And I'd love to hear where you're coming in from. Hello. So Frederica is here dialing in from my layover in London. Oh, this is sweet. Flying back from the most amazing conference Belinda put on. Frederica came to our conference in San Antonio, Texas. She came from the Netherlands, which is awesome. Hello to Lara in Calgary. Hello, Mary. Welcome. Hello. For those of you who wonder why, so your names don't show up, but I'm going to tell you how to fix that, okay? So if you guys go over to StreamYard.com/Facebook and you click the link over there, I'll be able to see your names in StreamYard, which would be fabulous. All right, so Amy is here from Texas. Hello, Christy, good morning. And Lori is here from Norwalk, Connecticut. Okay, fabulous, great. Okay, so today we're going to talk about the importance of routine. Routine is critical, and so I want you to kind of work with me here on thinking about like what your routine is, where you need to make adjustments and things like that. So we're going to dive into the details. But before we do, I want to introduce you. I want to introduce myself and my little daughter. So this is Emily. This is us in 2010 when I was just starting my virtual assistant business, and my life had taken a very unexpected turn. I was not where I wanted to be. I was not where I planned to be. And it was a little shocking to realize that I was a few months shy of my 50th birthday. And I had expectations. Like, I'm a huge planner. I had expectations, about where I would be in life at this point. And 50 seemed like such a big milestone. The thing is that when Emily was born, I left corporate after 17 years. I started my own business, but I struggled to make it a success. And for more than 8 years, after more than 8 years of a lot of struggle, I had to close the doors. But when I looked up and I had to figure out what was next, I realized how off track I'd gotten. I was getting divorced. I had to sell my home because I couldn't pay the mortgage for over a year. I needed to figure out how to make money. And I was in 6 figures of debt, and I had not paid my taxes for 7 years. And I was stressed out all the time, and so here I am sliding into this milestone 50th birthday. And it's like, oh my gosh, what the heck am I going to do? So I decided to return to my roots. I knew how to offer administrative support to business owners. I was a secretary in my 20s, and I really liked the work. I was, and a successful entrepreneur told me the best way to start a business is to tell everyone you know. So I thought, okay, game on, I'm in. And I got my first client at the school bus stop. So, the dads were, talking in the morning. The dads were usually there in the morning and the moms were there in the afternoon. And one of the dads said, what's new? And I said, well, I'm thinking about starting this business. And he hired me. But the thing that was funny about it, not funny, but like crazy funny, is that I thought he had a job. And if I had known he had started his own business 2 months before, I probably wouldn't have said anything to him, which is ridiculous, right? But my whole shtick in my head was people are going to think I want something from them. Like that was my whole thing. And what happened instead was I realized that as a virtual assistant, I am a solution to people's problems. I totally helped this guy. I paid his bills. I organized his QuickBooks and set it up. All these things that he was struggling with, I was able to fix, and he was so relieved. He was so relieved. The second client I met at a wedding in the buffet line at the reception, and so here's my takeaway for you for this is that knowing where your clients are going to come from is impossible. Okay. Don't waste your time prospecting. Just spread the word. There's a ton of information about this on the blog. It's thevaconnection.com/blog. So check it out. All right, good. So Laura is here from France, and Karen, hello. Karen is here from Phoenix, and Karen and Carol are here as well. Great. All right. So fast forward, I leaned in. I worked so much on my mindset, you guys. I can't even tell you. I started keeping my word to myself. I stepped out of my comfort zone. I built a successful business as a virtual assistant. And the first year out, I earned $70,000. The next year, for the next 10 years, I said earned, I created. Because when you have your own business, you're putting the work in and all the things, but you create the success. You create the finances, that go along with that. And so for the next 10 years, I created $100,000 or more every single year. And the systems that I developed and the methods I use to build my own VA business is what I teach at the VA Connection. And I would love to teach you too. All right, good. Now check this out. Whoa. Here's a different picture, right? This is a very different picture. And this is what my life looks like now, 13 years later. My finances are handled, no more minimum payments and scraping by. I have a thriving business that I built one day at a time. I was there for my daughter as she grew up. I can breathe. And I married the most amazing man really on the planet. I've been looking for him since my 20s. And at 60, we got married. And this is us on our wedding day. So, and all the boys. So David, Charlie, Greg, me, Emily, Stephen, and Andy. So, and if you join VA school and you ask me, I'll tell you why we're all wearing Stan Smith tennis shoes. It's kind of a funny story. I didn't get married in Stan Smiths, but I wore them for a while at the reception. Okay, good. Now, let's dive into routines. Who's ready for that? Tell me if you have a routine that's working for you now in the comments. I would love to hear if you have a routine that's working for you now. So the majority of my life, I have had a routine, right? So we have a routine as a student, right? As a mom, as an empty nester, you have a routine. And for most of my life, my routine was organized around other people, right? So like getting myself to work at the agreed to time, making sure my daughter, Emily, was at school before the bell rang. Now it involves taking care of the chickens in the morning. I have 8 little delicious chickens, and having lunch with my husband, Greg, during the day. And so what I noticed is that, it was easier to have a routine when someone else was in charge of it, right? It's easier to have a life when someone else is in charge of it, quite frankly. But to make a change in your life and to have the life that you want, you have to grab hold of that routine. And, part of the routine dilemma for me when I went out on my own and started Rocket Girl Solutions 13 years ago was that there was a couple of things. One, I was so accustomed to jumping around and taking care of the other people in my life. And I don't mean my daughter. I mean, my former husband, my friends, different people that I never put myself first. And I never really put a stake in the ground to say, here's what I need to be successful. And it really wasn't until I was on my own and, that I could do this. And it took a while to get through that feeling of being selfish, about being clear about what I needed and the support that I needed in order to have a successful business. And that is the difference between the business that I started before Rocket Girl Solutions and Rocket Girl Solutions, was that, to have your own business and for it to be a success, You can't be getting dragged around by everybody else. It just doesn't work. Every time somebody showed up in front of me, I was like, what do you need? What do you need? Instead of thinking to myself, I'm working on this now, and I can help them at lunch, or I can help them later, or we can talk on the weekend. But every time someone, showed up in front of me, I stopped jumping up. I stopped jumping up. And so we have to think about that. Now, when the other thing that I did, and this is kind of interesting, was that I did not prioritize even the most basic things in my routine, like eating. When I had my business before Rocket Girl Solutions, I literally would go to Trader Joe's and buy a bag of almonds, and that would be my food for the day. Sure, almonds are healthy, but not a pound of them, in a day, and no vegetables and no fruit and no, anything. I also wasn't taking care of my body. I wasn't working out at all. I wasn't walking, and I wasn't in great shape, and I didn't really look that great either. I'll have to tell you. And there's a funny story about that, but I won't get into it today. But, you have to put the things into your routine that are going to catapult you. Right. So the first thing so here's what my routine is now. I get up in the morning, and I don't get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I get up at like 8 o'clock. Sometimes I even sleep in a little bit to like 8:15, 8:20. I get up, I go into the kitchen, the kitchen and the chickens. Those are the two first things. I go into the kitchen. Greg's usually there. I say good morning. I go down to the coop. I let the chickens out. I give them some treats, talk to them for a few minutes, get some air into my head, outside, and just take a minute. And then I come up and I look at my desk, and I look at my calendar, and I say, what's up for today? Okay, let's get ready. I mostly am getting ready mentally. First I get ready mentally, like, okay, what am I doing? How do I feel about that? What do I need to do? Is there anything niggly happening in my head that I need to handle, a bill I need to pay, or something like that? And then I lean into the work, my client work, and I look at what needs to be done, what are the deadlines, but firmly and clearly on my calendar are two things every single day: lunch and a walk. No kidding. And sometimes, and we'll talk about this, but sometimes that walk is at 10 o'clock. Well, no, not 10 o'clock. I don't go that late, but I put it in before. But sometimes that walk doesn't start until 8:30 or 9 at night. And I do it on the treadmill. I like to walk outside, but in in this daylight savings thing where it's dark at 4:45, that doesn't really work. So I will go for a walk on the treadmill and watch something that's entertaining. Watch something that's entertaining on TV. But the thing is those are the blocks, and they might move. Lunch might move from noon until 1. Like today, we have that bonus session. It's going to move from noon till 1, but it's happening at 1. It's nobody can get on my calendar or move it beyond that, because I will just fall over, right? I will not be able to help anybody. I need to be really in my head and clear about what's going on. And routine helps with that. Okay. So the thing is that routines are easily thrown off, right? They're totally thrown off track, when life doesn't go as planned. And my life rarely goes as planned. And, like, for example, Greg went away in March. He was gone for a couple of weeks. He was helping one of his boys in Florida. And I would look up at 2 o'clock and I'm starving because there's a trigger, right? Routines are usually triggered by something. And the trigger was at noon. I would hear Greg in the kitchen and I'd say, oh, it's time for lunch. And because he was in there, I would say to myself, I got to go now because he's waiting for me and I need to help cook. So you have to put triggers in place. You have to put triggers in place. And, and I have noticed absolutely that when I transition from one routine to another, it feels very disorienting. And I have to literally sit down and say, what is the routine? This is a very, decisive thing that you have to do. So for example, Emily, I drove her to school or walked her to school, depending on where we live, forever, either to the bus stop or, walked her to the actual school. And then all of a sudden, she got her driver's license. It's like, okay, she's driving to school, so I don't need to get up. I loved that, let me tell you. But so she would come in, she'd give me a kiss. I'd tell her to have a great day, and I'd roll over. but that doesn't work for long, because then you're wandering into the kitchen. It's like, what do I do? Because what would happen is I would drive her to school. That was a trigger. I was dressed, I was up, I was ready, boom, and I was ready to go. But when I kind of roll out of bed and I don't have a next step, that's when I get in trouble. So that's what you have to think about. Okay, that's what you have to think about. Now, because working as a virtual assistant is very what's the word I want to use? What is the word I want to use? It's not. I don't want to say it's not a negative word, but it's we'll use the word unknown. That's not the right word, but it's unknown how your days are going to unfold. Uncertain. There we go. It's uncertain how your days are going to unfold, because you could wake up to an email. Client would like you to do something during the day, or a client cancels a project. That happens where they say, I was going to do that, but I decided I'm not because I'm going out of town. Something happened. So because it's uncertain how the day will unfold, it's important to put your rocks, your big rocks. We've all heard that analogy, get a jar, put the big rocks into the jar first, and then the little pebbles will, the other things, the pebbles will fill in around it. But if you fill a jar up with pebbles and then you try to put a big rock in there, it doesn't work. So you want to put your big rocks in first, which for me are eating, exercising, going to bed, taking care of the chickens, those things. Okay. So you definitely want to put in those non-negotiables. The other thing is you need to put support systems in place. This is not about willpower. This is not about discipline. This is not about fill in the blank, right? Your routines really need to have a support system. So here's an idea. Example. I write a newsletter every week. Okay. Now I publish it on Monday mornings. I don't start writing it Sunday night. I start writing it actually Monday night. I might not actually put my fingers on the keys to start the actual writing of it, but I'm thinking about it and I'm looking for an idea, and I'm scanning my brain so that usually by Monday night I have an idea. I start to write it out. And depending on how easily the ideas come to me, depending on what's going on in my brain, my goal is to have it finished by Wednesday. So I put time in my calendar to actually work on it. There's a trigger in my calendar. It says TVACNL, the VA Connection newsletter. And every Monday it's on my calendar in a recurring event on Monday. And I move it around during the week as I work on it to keep the reminder in front of me. So you really want to make sure that you have triggers in place for your routine. The other thing you can do is set reminders on your phone. It's time to eat. It's time to walk. It's time to take care of the chickens, whatever that is. I have a whole bunch of recurring reminders on my phone. I have one for this session right here for 15 minutes before to make sure that I'm in my chair ready to go. All right. And then the third thing you want to do is you have to be concrete about your commitment. This is not a wishy-washy situation. All right. So, and you have to understand how your brain works. Okay. So for example, I am not good at moderation. I'm kind of an all-in girl. All right. And so when I make a decision, I think about it before I commit. And I think a couple things. If I commit to this, am I up for it? Am I no kidding going to do it? Is it going to make me mad? Right? We talk about that in VA school, this whole concept of the filters you put your decisions through. And am I willing to do whatever it takes? So when it comes to my walk, yes, 100%, 100%. If I'm in a hotel, and they have a treadmill and I can't go outside because it's raining for, like when we were in Dallas, I got on the treadmill, And so here's the thing though. If the commitment is squishy, it doesn't usually work. So let's say I say, I'm going to walk 5 times a week. All right. So here's what happens. I've done this a million times. I've tried it. It doesn't work for me. Now it might work for you, but it doesn't work for me. So if I say I'm going to go on a 6-mile walk, 5 times a week, on Monday, it might be raining. And I'm like, I don't really want to get on the treadmill. The treadmill is boring, right? Let's just face it. No matter what's on the TV, after 45 minutes, I'm like, right? So, and then Tuesday, I'll be busy, right? Because I want to block the time. And then what's going to happen is, I'm Friday, something is going to come up. So my point is, if it's squishy, the routine is squishy, it doesn't happen. And you'll be back to eating a bag of almonds like I was, right? So I just decided I'm going to walk every single day. And sometimes it's in the morning, sometimes it's at really literally 9 o'clock at night, because that's where it fits in. But I do it, and I look forward to the feeling of the completion of the routine because it feels successful, right? It builds confidence that I'm trustworthy and all the things. And so routines go very far into building confidence, into leaning into who you are as a successful human being. So definitely, realize that they're going to come and go. They're going to change, and you want to think about, what do you want to accomplish and what's it going to take to do that, and just think about that, when it comes to your health, your fitness, your food, and your business. What are the things that are in your routine? And if you are in VA school, we have mechanisms to track that. We have I call it a sprinkling tracker, where we track the activities that are going to make our business successful. We have financial trackers so that we can see, where the money is coming from and how we can turn the knob up. There are a lot of systems in VA school that tie this all together so that you don't have to figure it out. There are some built-in routines right in the curriculum when it comes to having a successful business. All right, you guys. So thank you for coming. I'm so glad you're here. And we have a lot of things going on this week, so definitely check your calendar and join me. All right. So I'm Belinda Sandor. I'm signing off from Lessons from the Cockpit. Have a great rest of your week. Join me as often as you can. I love spending time with you. All right. Bye for now.